Podcast
We're
is
live.
live.
Today is welcome back to the SNS podcast, episode number 2, self-wealth and dealing with our setbacks in life.
Oh yes, this will be a meaty one. I can feel it.
You recording?
Oh, yep, we're live.
We are live. Excellent. Have you had to deal with any setbacks lately?
Do you know what? Yes, actually, over this over the course of this week, I graduated with I from my Tefl course, right? And I've yet to receive the certificate.
Tell our viewers what Tefl is.
Okay, that's right. TEFL, so it's a teaching English for foreign learners course. So essentially, I am able to teach English to kids from like third world countries or countries where English isn't the primary language, and I can do that either through traveling to the actual country and just sort of like working abroad and teaching there, or I can do it remotely, as in online in the form of tutoring. And that's a great achievement, I think personally. The the setback with that is now I have to create like a resume with any and all teaching history, which I have very minimal of. I have very minimal
Hey, you
skills
can add
there.
this podcast to your resume. We're teaching a bunch of young men how to be better men.
Well, there you go. So, I got really eager and keen about the whole TEFL course, but they basically need you to create a resume, send it through to the various recruitment sites, and then from there they handpick the teachers. So I thought, well, shit, if I'm going up against actual teachers, then my chances are going to be quite slim. However, you've just told me I can use this podcast. I've also just literally, as I've said it, just realized I taught quite a few medical lessons and seminars during my time in the military. The only problem is I don't have any certificate to back that, in terms of
Mm.
social proofing or credibility. But I do know that I can send my resume in the form of a video. So I've been doing YouTube for about a solid 6 months now, and I've gotten fairly confident in front of the camera. So if I can just pull that off and just completely ace my performance, I reckon I could get to the top of the pile. So that's been my sort of, bittersweet setback this week. What about yours, man?
Mm. Setbacks.
Hmm.
You know, I want to talk about this through a metaphor. Not really
Okay.
metaphor, like a roundabout way in a story.
Okay.
You know how in the ocean you have constant waves, right? You go to the beach, there are constant waves. Constantly. The water's never still. There's always waves lapping at your feet. And
Yes.
then so that's the day to day, ups and downs, in and outs day to day. And then on a larger macro scale, larger time scale, you have your high tide and you have your low tide. So even though the mini waves are constantly happening in the broader scheme of things, right? Once or twice a day, high and low tide, high and low tide, high and low tide. And then in a even bigger scale, once in a couple of years, maybe, or maybe depends. You have big major events like a tsunami where all of the water gets sucked out and then all of the water gets just dumped on you in one go. I think of our lives kind of like that, where we are on this, we have this little boat, this little paper boat sitting on top of the waves, and we go where the waves take us. Usually, nothing. In, out, little waves, little tiny waves. And then from time to time, we feel this massive burst of energy, this
Yeah.
massive boost of motivation. Everything in life just feels like it's going bloody amazing.
Yeah.
And then on
S-
the flip side, there's other times where, you know what, everything feels like shit.
hmm.
Nothing's going well, and you feel like, oh, I could be so much better than this, but I can't bring myself to. That's how I
Oh.
view. life and setbacks, they are almost inevitable, just like how the waves coming in and out are inevitable. Dealing with setbacks is a lot easier when you have a prior system in place. It's like in an emergency. Actually, before an emergency, you'd be able to buy water, buy clothes, buy food, everything pretty easily. But during an emergency, all the shops are closed. Like imagine a tornado or something, all the shops are closed. You have to rely on what you previously stockpiled. In the same way, getting out of a rut, getting out of a depression, getting out of whatever, setbacks,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier if you have a system set in place that you built beforehand.
Oh,
Because
100%.
when you're in a depression, when you're in a rut, when you're feeling absolute dog shit, you're not going to feel like, oh, you know what? Today, let's do some self improvement. Let's do some journaling. Let's do this. Let's do that. You
Yeah.
have to have systems in place that make it easier for you to do that. So, broadly speaking, every time I feel like I'm in a rut, I do two things to bring myself into my happy place. The first is a quick 10-minute body scan. I know everyone is everyone's recommending Medito as a meditation app. But for the
You-
body scan specifically, I prefer an app called Smiling Mind. They're both meditation apps. Smiling Mind. And
okay.
that one, for whatever reason, just puts me in a very, very blissful state. It makes me aware of my entire body and somehow makes me happy about it. Now,
See.
after I've had that 10-minute rest, that 10-minute mindfulness session, there are a few resources and articles that I've saved as bookmarks on my phone. Some of them are short. I read the short ones first to get my mind primed, and then I'll move on and read the longer ones to bring back that energy. You know, when you watch like a motivational video about how cool and yeah, how cool someone is,
Oh
you
yeah.
kind of feel like, oh yeah, I can be that guy. I can
Yeah.
be that guy. And then
you
for the next few minutes, or at least while you're watching it, you feel motivated.
you're riding that wave, you're riding that high. You're at the top of the wave,
Yeah.
at the peak of it. Yeah. I know what you
Yeah,
mean.
after you close the video, you might not feel so high anymore. But whilst you're watching that video, you feel like you're on top of the world. You're like, yeah, I can do that. That's so fucking cool. Let's go out and crush our goals.
Yeah, let's
Those
get this
articles
bread.
that I've saved on my phone, they're kind of like that. Except because they're articles, I can't just sit back and watch them. I have to constantly read the words, as in it's more active than watching, if that makes sense. With a video, even if you just close your eyes, the video still plays. You can still listen to the audio.
Yep.
Whereas with a book, with an article, if you close your eyes, if you don't put in the work of reading it, it's not much work. You're just
It,
scanning your eyes across a few words. But if you don't do that, then you're not reading the article. And
yeah, it
I
goes
find
nowhere.
that, yeah, and I find that it, like reading rather than watching,
Hmm?
allows me to focus on the content way more because it's just so easy just closing your eyes and letting the video play. But if you
Yeah.
want to get the most out of a book, most out of an article, most out of whatever, you're much better off reading the thing. It's like with books. Yeah, having an audiobook is nice and convenient, and you would get a lot of value out of an audiobook. But you get reading the book way more value. That's what I reckon. So no matter what kind of rut I'm in, no matter what kind of little depression spiral I'm in, that little system is what I have in place. That's the starter. Meditation, 10-minute session on a body scan. I think it's actually 8 minutes in the Smiling Mind app. And then I start reading the articles that I've laid out. That's my system.
Yeah, I mean,
More broadly, though, sleep is a really, really important one. Just like
I
how the waves come in and out, your
was about to
sleep
say that.
cycle or your sleep schedule also comes in and out. Because some days you're like, oh, I'm really on top of my sleep. It's 9 o'clock, I'm going to bed. It's 6 a.m., I'm getting out of bed. Other days you're like, oh, you know what? I deserve to stay up a little bit. Maybe I'll watch a movie or play some games, go to sleep at 10. And then you wake up a bit later, 6:30, 7 o'clock, because you went to bed late. And then the rest of the day, you just feel kind of thrown off. And then maybe you need a bit of coffee to keep you going. Well, then that coffee keeps you awake so that when it's bedtime again, you don't feel like sleeping at 9. You don't even feel like sleeping at 10. You want to sleep at 11. And then your sleep just gets absolutely demolished.
Yep.
And then you'll continue like that, basically relying on the coffee to keep you awake up until the point where you just can't hold it back anymore and you just crash one day. You just go to bed super duper early. And then the next day you feel amazing. And then the cycle starts over and over again. Good sleep turns into bad sleep. Bad sleep turns into good sleep. Just like that saying, strong times create weak men. And then the rest of that saying. Everything
Yeah.
comes in cycles.
Yeah. I think it's hard times create strong men, and then strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and then the weak men create the hard times. So it's a self-perpetuating cycle. And just to follow on to
Indeed.
what you said there, what you're creating right there, just within that small, that very minute like subgroup of a person's, you know, I say that fall under well-being, right? Your sleep schedule, your sleep system, all of that is affected by the micro actions that you take, such as going to sleep an hour earlier or an hour later, or sometimes 2 3 hours. And then it also depends on what you're doing for those, for that period of time, which then affects your sleep schedule. That right there is deliberately and directly contributing to, that whole expression. You're placing yourself in the category of either becoming a strong man or a weak man. For all the guys who are listening to this right now, I just want you to take this in. Like, really think about the actions that you're doing right now, the actions you're committing in your day-to-day life, because it's not the big stuff that defines you. It's the small habitual rituals that you do. It's the stuff that nobody else sees, right? And you might think that, but I've said this before, where our subconscious knows everything about us. It knows us better than we consciously know ourselves. And what I mean by that is, take every time that you've said you're going to do something, or you're going to commit to an event, or you've just made a promise and you've never kept that promise. You break it. You say, okay, I'm going to go to sleep at 9 p.m. And then you look at your clock and it's now 1 a.m. because you've been playing like Fortnite for the last like 3 hours. You might think, oh, well, you know what? It's okay. I'll just wake up early tomorrow, No bullshit excuses. I'll just set my alarm and wake up and make sure that I get up. And then you don't do that. And then you try and justify it by saying, well, it's not like I had anything important to do today. So, you know what? I'll start tomorrow. But while it's all well and good, because you're still, that's the conscious mind just validating and justifying your actions, your subconscious is reading that as, okay, so you're not a man of your word. So you lack the ability to commit to yourself. How could you ever commit to somebody else? How could you, then it starts a snowball. How could you ever be someone who gets things done? How could you ever be a leader? How could you ever be a good boyfriend, husband, lover, partner? How could you?
Fuck buddy.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Anything, literally. But it's that is all part of the process. It's like, oh, so you just want to have fun with a member of the opposite sex, but you can't even make the commitment to yourself to get out of bed on time. So your subconscious will then go into a state of self-sabotage, not because it hates you, because it's trying to protect you, because commitment and honoring your word is alien to you, right? And I've been there so many times before. When I left the military and I tried to reintegrate into society, my life was a mess. So, my sense of self-worth and self-pride hit the like went to the floor and below. And it was only once I started to turn things around, I realized these are the points that I need to identify in order to, to make it like abundantly aware to myself and also to other people, so I can teach, these lessons, that the biggest commitment that you can make is to yourself, and that links directly to your self-worth. That is how you change the visual representation that you see in the mirror. Does that make sense? Spear, do you
Yeah,
understand what I'm saying? So in
yeah, I
terms
do.
of self-worth, let's just sort of dive into that a little bit. Um we spoke in the last episode about our like the origin of our stories and what happened, how we got there. But let's go back there and focus a little bit more on our sense of self-image, our self-pride. How did you start off? What what affected you, and how did it affect you as you grew up? And then what did you do to turn it around? And how did you switch the view, if that makes sense?
Oh, if we want to get into the weeds, we might need about 10 episodes to cover all of it.
I mean,
But
maybe
the short of
just
it is,
yeah.
I was raised Buddhist. So my grandparents on my dad's side, they are very, very devout Buddhist. They raised me like extreme Buddhist, like really, really devout.
Right.
And being Buddhist, part of the philosophy is you should be kind to others. Right? You don't go out of your way to make people suffer. You don't go out of your way to make people feel shit. And they imparted that on me. That if I were to display, so this is, we said this last week as well, but if I were to show value, whatever that means, if I were to show value to
Mhm.
the other kids would see the value and they'll be nice to me. That
Classic.
was the promise that I was told, the promise that I was given by my grandparents. Now, kids being kids, they're absolute assholes. I don't blame them because they're kids. But obviously, that's not how the world works. I
Yeah.
showed my value. I was not rewarded. If anything,
You're
I was
punished.
pushed into the dirt,
Yeah.
punished for being so nice. Because, as kids, you would think, what the hell's this weirdo doing here? Why is he offering to do my homework for me? Why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? It's like if people on the street randomly came up to you and said, hey, you want this $50? I'm offering you $50. Do you want it? Free $50.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
You'd be
$50,
like,
but you
who
would
the
think,
fuck's this
yeah,
weirdo?
what are the strings? What
Yeah.
strings are attached?
What's the
Who is
catch
this guy?
22,
Is he
bud?
going to
Yeah.
murder me?
Yep.
In the same way, but as a kid, you would think, why is this guy being so nice for no reason? That's bloody weird.
Yeah. It's like
So
if
instead of getting instead of getting my craving of, what's the word I'm looking for?
you wanted validation, you wanted approval.
Yeah, validation, attention, and just being accepted.
Yeah.
If anything,
Acceptance. That's a big one, man.
it was the complete opposite. But that was the foundation. Like that was my upbringing. That you should be kind, and I'm still kind. At least I like to think so. I am a
Hey.
kind God.
I'm kind. Like me, please.
Hmm.
But
And
yeah.
then that obviously didn't jive very well with me. That obviously felt strange. It felt fake. It felt untrue because on the one hand, I was promised that everyone would be nice to me, but the reality is they wouldn't. So I started seeking answers. And keep in mind, this is when I was like a kid, like what, 7-ish years old. I started having these deep philosophical thoughts. Well, as deep as a 7-year-old can have. And then that led me to this is when the internet was still mostly Web 1.0, where the most interactive the internet got was a game like RuneScape. Everything was just websites and websites. You couldn't click on anything. You could
Yeah.
only read the words on the website. You couldn't interact. And I was searching. I was like, oh, why don't people like me? How to get people to like me? And then, of course, that led to how to get girls to like me.
Naturally.
But
Yep.
keep in mind, I was still like 7 or 8. It's like, what am I thinking? What do I care about that? But that piqued my interest because it's like, oh, why do people care about this? Obviously, an article has been written about this. Why do people care about it? So I started reading more, and then that turned into the best pickup lines and all that. And again, keep in mind, I was like 8 years old. What the hell's an 8 year old going to do with pickup lines? But I was reading it and I was sucking it all in like it was the gospel, like it was the word
Yeah.
of God Himself,
Of course.
and all of that. It was just like, oh, maybe I'm onto something, but I still haven't really figured it out yet. But I can see, like, for some of the words, it's demonstrate high value. Like how in the
Yeah.
seduction
These
community we talk
these
about demonstrate high
buzzwords.
value, be high value. Yeah, like these buzzwords, they're still around
God.
after 10, 15 years.
Oh yeah.
But back then, it's just like showed that you're high value. I was like, oh, maybe I'm not high value enough, and that made me a little sad that people don't like me, not girls, just people don't like me because I'm not
Yeah.
high value. What is high value? I don't know, but they don't like me because I'm not high value.
Yep. It's like the rabbit hole.
And mm, and then when my balls started dropping, puberty started happening, testosterone started coursing through my veins. That stuff finally made sense. It's like, oh, that's why people want to have girls. That's why people search how to make girls like you.
Yeah, it's not so it goes beyond just a prom date, eh?
Mm.
Like you go
And
to the
that's
prom with
when I
me.
started looking into how to actually be quote unquote high value, because you get lots of definitions from everywhere. It's like, oh, what's high value? People just broadly speak about be high value, but no one actually tells you how to be high value. What is the definition of high value? And fair enough, because it's very, very difficult to define.
It
What's high
is.
value to me might not be high value to you. For
Exactly.
example, if we went through the soccer example last time, if I don't give a shit about playing soccer, then I don't care if you're the best soccer player in the world. That's not high value to me because I don't care. But if you're a soccer fanboy, then meeting, I don't know, what are some famous soccer players?
That's
Messi, and
that's
that's
football,
about
guys,
that's
for
the
all the
extent of my
British,
knowledge, man.
all the British guys
Yes,
here.
football for
Just,
you British people.
I could just hear, I could just feel the people's energy getting slightly
You can
triggered.
feel the confusion. It's like, what's soccer?
What
What
the
is this
fuck?
spear guy talking
Yeah,
about?
the fuck is this guy talking about? But yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, if it's like all the riches in the world don't mean shit to somebody who's just trying to make it day to day to put food on the table. You know what I mean? It's like it's all relative, right? Value is all relative. So like a Louis Vuitton bag to a millionaire has value, but to the man on the street whose only like objective is to just have shelter and provide for his family, it means nothing because that's not going to help them sustain themselves, right? So in
Mm,
your case, yeah, exactly. You're on this role. Like, what is value? What is value at the end of the day? You know, it's all relative. So
mm.
so I'm curious, what did you do then to increase your own perception of what value is?
Right. So that's going to be the second half of my very long story.
Okay, go for
Remember,
it.
this was now I'm moving into high school now, where puberty is going through, like I'm going through puberty and all that.
Hmm.
And then I stumbled across the red pill. Now,
Ooh.
I want everyone here to listen to the following with an open mind. I stumbled across the red pill in its infancy, meaning I wasn't there the day it was made, but because a bunch of people from that community were promoting it across various subreddits, I just happened to stumble across one of those links. It's like, hey, come check out the red pill. We're discussing relevant content here. And back then, this was like a very, very small community, maybe 1,000 or so people, if you look at the subscriber count. All right, this is before any of the controversy. This was just like, hey, this is a place to discuss sexual content and, sorry, sexual strategy. Sexual content makes it sound like porn. Here we're going to define, here we're going to talk about, here we're going to discuss, here we're going to whatever sexual strategy for men. And that was the core of it. And I was like, oh, this is some really riveting stuff. But it also felt like immediately, just by reading the content, you immediately know that, hey, this is some controversial stuff. This is some stuff that is not taught in the mainstream.
Yeah.
As in, they will actively discuss things like negging, like shit tests, and all these other words. Basically, it's like, oh, dating girls is like playing a game. You have to treat them like shit, and then they'll come to you and
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Stuff that society would
Now,
scorn because we live in a society that loves to.
we live in a society.
We do live in a society, a society that thinks that everything is like a Disney fairy tale, and the red pill
Yeah.
basically shatters that illusion. So yeah, negging.
Mm,
So we got negging, we've got shit tests, and analogies like, yeah, you got to basically play games with these chicks' heads, right?
So, and let me rant for about 2 minutes here,
That it.
and I want everyone to listen to this with an open mind, and keep in mind that this was the red pill in its infancy. Everything was just discussing sexual strategy. All right, do this, you get these results. It, in a way, it felt very scientific. In so like they called them field reports, but it's kind of like a science report, like an experiment write up. My hypothesis is this: if I do these actions, I should get these results. Let me go test that. Oh look, I get these results. Hypothesis validated, or hypothesis disproven, or anything like that. And at first, that stuff just felt like, oh, okay, this is not for me. When I first stumbled upon it, the words that we're using and just how abrasive everything was, I was just like, okay, this is interesting stuff, but I'm not ready for it. Like I literally thought to myself, I'm not ready for this. But what if this is? I don't know how true or how false it is, but I'm not ready for that right now. My state of mind is not right. And then I kind of just left that. So I browsed it for a day. And I just left it. And then a few months later, I was just bored on the train, I guess. I finished watching or reading or whatever as I was doing. I needed something else to fill in the time. Right. This is when I was in a very uh, long commute between home and school. It was basically like an hour each way. And so I just, I'm going to click the red pill. I'm going to revisit it, see what it was that found so revolting the previous time. But now the subscriber count had gone up quite a bit, and the quality of content has also gone up. Moderation had improved, and it felt like instead of being a blobby mess of people just trying to show off to other people or trying to be all about, oh, how women are bitches, or oh, do this and you get the girls, it turned into something that's more structured. And instead of talking purely about, like, the core focus is still sexual content, sexual strategy, but instead of talking about that, it established a broader framework of how humans interacted with one another, including including stuff like shit tests and negging and stuff like that. But it was discussing this stuff more broadly, so that you could apply it anywhere and everywhere. Meaning, it's not just for girls and guys, as in a man to woman relationship. It's for everything, as in interactions with everyone, whether it's your school friends, whether it's your teachers, whether it's the man at the grocery store, whether it's your dentist, this, that. All of these things, they're fundamental to how humans interact. And that is where I establish my value. What do I mean by that? I worked out that what the reason that I was so uh what's the word? I was pushed away in primary school as a kid. Why I was so pushed away was truly because I was low value. Low value in the sense that as kids, what do you value? You want to be around the cool kid, the cool guy. I was not the cool guy. And the more I forced myself to be the cool guy, the more fake it seemed and the more everyone pushed me away. But if I had, so like if you remember back when you were kids, right, the cool guy or the cool kid was the one who has the cool clothes or has the cool gadgets or, yeah, like wears the sunnies and has popped collars and stuff like that. That's not necessarily high value in an objective sense. Right? Like what does wearing the sunglasses make? Why does that make you cool? But somehow as kids, it's like, oh, the cool guys in the movies wear sunglasses.
Yep.
So if you wear sunglasses, you must be cool. So objectively, that's not high value. It's just like sunglasses, bro. Like it's a piece of plastic on your face. But to the kids, that's cool. And so I did a lot of introspection, like a lot of it. And I came to the conclusion that it was, and this is why I preach mental health and mindset so much. It was all in the mind because our perception of the world is shaped by our mind, meaning two people can look at the exact same thing, the exact same scenario, the exact same picture, the exact same movie, the exact same whatever, and they can get two very, very different conclusions out of it.
Hmm.
A great example is this Hamza's cult right here. The people who have chosen to tune in, people who have chosen to stay, they see this as a place where potentially they can grow a stronger and better version of themselves. The people who take one look call us a stupid bunch of people who dogmatically follow someone. And yeah, I get it. Some people do stupidly and dogmatically follow the word of anything they read. They're not seeing the potential. They're not seeing the potential of self-improvement. And so they leave. We're both viewing the same thing. We're both looking at a Discord server. But sorry. But those two people will see the exact same thing in a very different way. So, with that in
Right.
mind, I formulated that the way we communicate, the way we interact with our fellow human, a lot of it is due to perception, a lot of it is due to mental. For example, if I told you that, hey, look at that dude over there, he's like a really, really cool millionaire. He's got like a billion yachts. He drives the fanciest sports cars. He's too busy, and that's why he doesn't bother dressing up because he knows he doesn't dress up. So he's dressed like in a t-shirt with some casual shorts and some flip flops. You'd be like, oh, because I told you all of those things. You built this mental image. It's like, oh, this guy must be really cool and successful. He gives no fucks. That's why he's dressing so casually. But now I take the same guy and I tell you, this guy, he doesn't have a job. This guy, he's a lazy bum. This guy, he does not care about the way he looks. He doesn't care about himself. Still the same guy, but because I told you a different background, I gave you a different story, you will view that same person a different way. So that if that guy comes up to you and introduces himself to you, you already have this idea of what this person is in your head, and you will talk to him as if he is that person. Remember, you don't know a single thing about that person. You only know what I told you about that person. All of this is based on perception. All of this is in the mind. It's all mental. Think about it. All of you in the audience right now. How many of you honestly can say that you know me? Probably none of you. And yet, you will cling on to the words that I say. You will listen to the words that I say and treat it like it is a very high value, like it's the truth. Why? Because I'm on the lecture stage, because I have fancy yellow or purple text next to my name. It's like, oh, this guy's Adonis. Oh, he's a moderator. He must be some high value guy. Am I? You don't know me. And yet, because of the label next to my name, because of this Discord role that I've been given, You will cling on to the words that I say, and you will consider them, if not follow them. Imagine I did not have this purple text next to my name. Imagine I was just another cult initiate, and somehow I was given the magical permission to speak up here. Would you treat my words as important? Would you consider my words as much as you do? Perhaps, perhaps not. Because the other part of it, and this is getting to the practical steps now, the practical steps of how you can reinvent yourself. The first and foremost is interaction. How you interact with your fellow person, with your fellow human, which means social skills. One of the best investments I made into myself is developing my social skills. And there is no easier way. There's no harder way, but there's no easier way than just doing it. As in, sink or swim, chuck yourself into the deep end, sink or swim, throw yourself into uncomfortable situations. For example, you're at, let's say, university. You see a bunch of people that you don't know. What you should do? Walk up to them, wave at them, smile at them. They'll be like, who the fuck is this guy? But they won't say it because no one wants to be the first guy to say, no one wants to be the first guy to appear rude. So
Yeah.
they'll just awkwardly, haha, hi. And then once you walk by, they'll turn to each other and it's like, do you know that guy? Who was that? Do you know him? Oh, I thought he was your friend. No, I don't know him. Who is he? Right? You can start off something small.
Yeah.
That is uncomfortable for you and for them, but most certainly uncomfortable for you. And then once you're comfortable doing that, walk up. So the next time you see a group like that, or even an individual, doesn't matter. It's like how in the gym you do progressive overload. With social skills, developing your social skills, you can also do progressive overload. You can walk and this time stop in front of them, smile, and then if you feel the pressure is too hard, then you can walk off again. Then they'll definitely think, okay, that was some weirdo there. What the hell? They just stopped out of nowhere, stopped in front of us and walked off. That was weird. But doesn't matter. You put yourself out of your comfort zone so that the next time you can stop, wave, say hi. This is the first time you're having actual words coming out of your mouth. And next time, continue that conversation for another 2 lines. Hi, how are you? What's your name? How are you doing? Nice weather we're having, isn't it? Okay, talk to you later. Bye. And then the next time, you can have a much longer conversation. Build that up. It's like, hey, I like your necklace. Hey, bro, I like your watch. Hey, girl, I like your shoes. I like your dress. I like your pants. I like your whatever. Having great social skills is really, really, I believe, really, really fundamental to having, in your own eyes, a positive self image of yourself. Because unless you're living alone and you never step out of the house, you will have social interactions every single day. And if in those social interactions you feel yourself being confident, that sets the tone for the rest of your day. If in every single social interaction you feel shy, unconfident, you feel like you just want to leave, well, then at every single day, you're going to have points in your life where you feel absolutely demoralized. You're not going to see yourself as high value. Even if in the rest of your life you're high value, let's say you're like some software engineer who's getting paid what 300, 400, 500K just to tap on the keyboard, write some code. In that aspect, yeah, you're making a lot of money. You're very high value in that regard. But that's all for naught if you can't transfer that high value into the rest of your life. Start with your social skills. Right. I know that Discord compresses our voices. So my voice that you're hearing right now isn't my actual voice. As in, you'll recognize that it's me, but it'll sound slightly different. So Discord does does play around with our voices. So for everyone who says I have a smooth, buttery voice, I probably still do in real life. Just probably doesn't sound exactly the same way that it comes out over here. That said, part of why you guys listen to me and to SK and to a lot of people here is the way we deliver our words. I'm going to pause there and I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to talk the way that I used to talk back when I was in primary school.
Interesting. Was that it? Did you take the?
That was it. I don't speak at all. In primary school, I did not speak at all. I could not bring myself to speak. And then when I did, I would come out like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys like what I'm saying?
Oh, okay.
My guy used to speak in a silent language. Upward inflection all the time. Upward inflection. Question mark. I would speak with either a neutral tone or an upward inflection. Upward inflection like that.
Yeah.
This
Looking
is a
for
very, very
reassurance.
subtle shift. Very, very subtle shift. But especially for men, if you start talking with a downward inflection at the end of your sentences, of your words, the way I'm doing right now, you come across way more authoritative. Even if you're saying the exact same words, even if nothing else changes, people will just respect you more simply because you talk with a downward inflection. Our minds are very funny, right? Like I was saying before, this is all perception. Somehow we perceive people who talk with a downward inflection to be higher status, to be higher value, that they know what they're talking about.
Just comes across as more confident. It comes across as more assured and self assured. So when you hear it, you think, this person is the expert in whatever they're saying because they say it with such deliberation.
Mm. Imagine, imagine, like if you've been in the army before, I haven't, but if you imagine a drill sergeant in a movie when they're yelling at all the recruits,
Mm-hmm.
how are they talking? They
Oh,
are
I mean,
in your face. They
they're
are super
right.
deliberate in their delivery. They're very
Yep.
loud. They're very
Yep.
in your face, and they will speak as if you are a tiny, tiny piece of shit.
You're there to
They're
listen.
very
That's it.
aggressive.
Yeah.
Exactly. They will spit all over your mothers, and if you dare fight back, they'll spit even harder.
Pretty much.
I'm not saying you have to talk like a drill sergeant, but think about why they are respected or why they give off this authoritative vibe. Right?
Speak.
Partially it's because they're loud, but even if they're not loud,
Mm-hmm.
if you've ever met one in real life, apparently I have. I don't know if he actually was a drill sergeant, but he says so. And I'm inclined to believe him because the guy just gave off an attitude of I don't take no fucks from you. You don't fuck around with me kind of vibe.
Pretty much.
And you
Yeah.
ask like why? What makes just 2 seconds talking to this guy and you already feel like this guy is not going to take your shit? Why? It's part of their demeanor. And this is all like this is all under a very, very broad umbrella category of social skills. I can't just say, hey, do these 5 tips and you'll be better at your social skills. It's more nuanced than that. But broadly speaking, downward inflection and taking your time with your words. I catch myself doing this a lot where I'll start speaking very, very fast. I get more and more flustered. I'll talk even faster. And I would just want to get the words out of my mouth. And yeah, people, if they were already previously glued onto my words, they will still listen. But for people who just started listening to me and I just start talking very, very fast, they'll be like, oh, okay. Can we change the topic now? Or they'll just walk away. But if I said the exact same things, just took a little bit longer, and I said it slower with a downward inflection, all of a sudden, it's the same words. All of a sudden, it feels more authoritative. It feels like it's more high value.
It's
That's
almost
my
like you're
biggest
teaching.
tip to everyone. Mm.
Yeah.
Speaking of teaching, right? Most of you know, if you've heard me speak before, I am a teacher. Not That's not my full time job, but I've been teaching for how long? Almost a decade. And you learn to control the class very quickly. Otherwise, you're not going to last very long as a teacher. Initially, how I controlled the class was I tried to emulate a drill sergeant in their loudness. I just yelled at everyone, telling them, shut up, listen, you don't talk when I talk. And that works, but it takes a massive toll on your voice. So that by the end of the week, my vocal cords were absolutely fried. So then how do you control a class, especially if you imagine 17, 18-year-olds? They're just full of energy and they just want to muck around all day. How do you control a class like that? I want people to actually respond to this in the lecture chat. How do you think you would control a class of 17, 18-year-old boys? Class of 20 to 30 people.
Yo with the chest. Yeah, I mean, say it with your chest. You project your
Yeah,
voice.
I'll actually get to that. I'll actually get to that.
Yeah, in my experience, I mean, I am from the military, and what you said was very, very accurate. The the way in which that our leaders are NCOs, SNCOs, even officers, the way that they address a public audience, the way they speak, is by projecting. They have to speak clearly, right? Speak clearly, project their voice. So it's nice and loud, and then speak with conviction. That's one thing that we were also taught when we were going through training. There's actually an acronym that we use for target indication, right? And the first part isn't so important so much as the second part. And the second part is called CLAP, which is clear. It stands for clear, loud, as an order, with pauses. And that right there sets the tone for communication. That can be taken, you know, off and on the battlefield, because communication is like an omnipresent means of, well, communicating, right? Interacting with each other. So if you use that same acronym and keep that in mind when you are talking to people, you'll find that you naturally start to take, again, that downward inflection, and your voice, your tonality starts to become that little bit more, masculine. If we're going to drop that into boxes of whether you sound as though you have a masculine or a feminine voice. Now, when you're speaking with conviction and you're speaking quite clearly, you're following the principles of clap, then naturally people are drawn into your voice, because what's happening is the frequency of your voice is hitting their ears, and it's basically subconsciously telling them, I am speaking, I have information that you need to hear, so pin your ears back and listen in. And that right there creates that dynamic. This, going back to the red pill, this is especially useful when it comes to interacting with women, specifically when you're on dates, because women naturally are attuned to submit to this frequency, right? Now, this lecture is about self-worth, and how you can raise your self-worth, well, you have to understand that the concept of that is it's all about you. It's never about the other person. And this may sound selfish when you say it this way, and I suppose to a degree it is, because at the end of the day, it is all about yourself. One of the fundamental ways that you can increase your self worth is just by speaking slower. Follow the follow the acronym of CLAP, right? You have to you have to slow your energy down because your words carry energy, your actions carry energy, your thoughts carry energy. When you slow it down and you follow a very systematic approach to the way that you communicate, the way that you formulate your sentences, the way that you interact with the world, you enter this very, very smooth flow state. In the military, we have another expression, primarily to do with CQB drills, but I like to apply this to just life in general. It's slow is smooth, smooth is fast, right? I'll say that again. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. That's why when you hear people say, oh, that guy's a smooth talker, what does that mean exactly? The smooth talker is the guy who takes, or the person rather, who takes time to formulate their sentences. They're not rushing, they're not hyperventilating in between words. They're just speaking slowly. Their words are hitting note for note, and it's been received by the other person. That then creates that synergy where the dynamic, it's like the bridge that then connects, and it creates that very steady sort of like stream of information going in and information going out and information going in, right? Coming in. As you speak slow and smoothly, people start to sort of attenuate to it and you start to capture more attention. This is why girls love guys who speak in a very calm and controlled manner because they themselves are probably thinking at a rate of like 1,000 thoughts per minute. When you speak slowly, calmly, and in a controlled manner, that calms them down and therefore creates this dynamic of safety. So, in essence, what I'm trying to say to sort of wrap this whole package up is just by focusing on you know, the rate of your speech, the flow of your speech, and just taking time to slow things down. That is the difference between creating a safe space for yourself or creating a very anxious and like almost like your own internal combat zone because you'll be constantly fighting your thoughts and then struggling to get the words out. And then you'll fumble and fumble and fumble, and that'll make you feel more insecure and you'll feel more anxiety, which consequently then gets projected onto the world around you. So just start by slowing things down, and you'll see that your own sense of self will start to elevate. You'll start to elevate because that's what this podcast is all about. It's about helping people separate from what's keeping them down in life in order to elevate themselves. But in order to do that, you have to put the work in. And this is, one tool that we would like to share with you. I want to move it on very quickly because we will have to wrap it up soon, Spear.
Mm.
In terms other than just speech, in your experience, what else can someone do to help improve their self-image? So we've already covered, communication, which I think we needed to stay on this for a long time because that is fundamental and it underpins pretty much every other aspect because for as long as there are humans on this planet, we're going to need to be able to socialize and communicate. I mean, we are social creatures by default. There's a reason why people
Mm,
who live in solitude are much more prone to depression and anxiety. So, to mitigate that, it's essential to develop social skills, at least,
yeah,
at least to a basic degree, right? What else can people do to help
yeah.
increase their sense of self worth?
For for communication, I want to quickly stress communication is not just about the speech. Communication, there's verbal and there's non-verbal communication. You need to practice all aspects of communication, including, and this is the next tip, posture and demeanor. Your posture and your demeanor. All right, everyone, this is a posture check right now. Posture check. Sit up tall, stand up tall, whatever you're doing, make it tall. Immediately, when you do that, notice that everything looks a little bit, just a little bit, more beneath you. As in, if you stand up taller, you are taller, so everything else in comparison is a little bit shorter. Just by standing tall, you will view yourself as a bigger and taller person, someone who is bigger, someone who is more powerful. On top of that, the rest of the world will view you as a bigger, a taller, a stronger person simply by puffing your chest out, simply by holding your head up tall. Your posture is one of the first things that people look at when they see you. Right? They see you as a person, yes, as a whole. They see your face, but they also look at your posture. If you're slumped over, if you're slouched over, even if you're very tall physically, you don't mentally appear that tall. Whereas someone who's shorter, if they have a strong physique and they hold up their chest, they immediately look bigger and taller. Right? Look at someone like Kai Green. He's not the tallest bloke around. And yet, if you look at any of his photos, you would not call that guy short or small because that guy just towers, even if not like in a height sense, that guy just towers over everyone, even if someone who's taller. Your posture is one of your non-verbal communication cues that is super, super important. And the other one is demeanor. Demeanor, as in how you carry yourself in an interaction, during an interaction. Earlier, I was posing the question to you guys, how do you control the class? With your demeanor. Meaning, if you guys remember the story about my English teacher in year 7, she could not control the class for shit. She would just let the class talk all over her. She would try to continue talking in her very soft voice. That just made it okay that since the teacher's not telling us to shut up, we'll just keep talking. And so, unless you were sitting at the very front of the class, you really could not focus. You really could not listen to the teacher. A good teacher isn't one that necessarily commands the class to be silent the entire time, but rather knows when to rein the class in. For example, a lot of my students, a lot of my prior students, I should say, remember that I've been teaching for almost 10 years now. A lot of my prior students I now call my friends. Not most of them, just some of them, but there's still a lot given how many students I've taught. And I was also their friend in class. Now, I want to I want to explain what I mean by that. I was a friend in class in the sense that I wasn't just some big teacher lecturing them, oh, here's how you do 1+1, here's how you do the science part, here's how you do the English parts and stuff like that. I treated them like people. I treated them like humans. I listened to them just like I expect them to listen to me. But at the end of the day, it's kind of like a big brother relationship or an older cousin relationship. You're still the one that's in control. You dictate the pace. So when you're having a casual conversation with your students, could be something that's relevant to what you're discussing in class, could be something that's slightly off tangent. You're still in control. Your demeanor, the way you carry yourself, the way you act, is as someone who is in control. Imagine your parents. Would they be flustered if you said, Mom, Dad, I want to have whatever, the latest Xbox, or I want to eat a pancake, or I want to whatever? No, they'll be like, hey, shut up, kid. I'm your mom. I'm your dad. You do as I say. They're in control. That's the frame that they've established, and that's a frame you fall into because they are your parents and they are in control up until you move out, at least. How you carry yourself. And then this is like we'll talk about frame another day. But if you just walk around, try this. This is really funny. Walk around to strangers and act as if you've known them for a very long time, as in they're your best friend.
Oh, I do it all the time, bro.
Just
It's
walk up to them. It's
amazing.
like, hey, haven't seen you in a long time. Just see how many of them also go, hey, nice to see you again.
I do it all the time. And they're
It's
like,
really
"Oh,"
funny. It's like, bro, I don't know you. You don't know me, but I'll pretend I know
but
you.
here we are, exactly. And just by that, you set the tone.
Because they
Like,
fall into your frame.
that's it.
Because that's the frame that you come up with. And they, unless they have a strong frame themselves, they have no reason to not believe in the frame that you've established.
Correct.
So in
Create
the
safety.
teacher student dynamic, my frame is, or the way I'm approaching this is, I'm the one in control. I am temporarily allowing you to speak. I'm temporarily allowing you to converse with me or converse with your friends. But the moment I want you to shut up and be quiet, you will do that. I don't have to verbally articulate that. I don't have to say that. I don't have to tell them, hey, shut up when I say so. Just the way you carry yourself when you truly internalize that, when you truly believe that you are in control of the class, naturally you will act as if you are. For example, yesterday I was teaching a class of year nines. So that's about 14 years old. There was a lot of them, boys and girls. And because you'll notice this, the bigger the class, the more they talk and the harder it is to control, generally speaking. But after a while, so this is not my first class with them. All right, this is towards the end of the school term. After a while, now they know when I expect them to shut up. After I explain the quiz, so at the start of the class, we have a 15-minute quiz. And then after that, I explain to them. After the quiz, when I collect their stuff and I hand out the new papers and everything, they're allowed to talk because I'm too busy handing the stuff out to actually teach them anything. They know they're allowed to talk. But the moment I step up back to the front, the moment I finish handing everything out, they just naturally shut up. They didn't used to. I had to establish that frame at the start. I just stood at the front silently, staring at them. You know, being able to hold eye contact, that's another thing. Eye contact is really important. Being able to hold eye contact is really
Oh,
important. Imagine
extremely.
you're coming up to someone big and tall, and they start staring at you. Would you feel comfortable staring at them back? Maybe, probably not. Now imagine it was a tiny kid, tiny little girl came up to you, looking all cute and whatnot, and staring at you. Would you feel comfortable staring at her back? In this case, probably. What's the difference? In your mind, like who knows? Maybe that girl is like the meanest girl ever and she's about to like steal your wallet or something. Maybe that big dude is like the friendliest dude you'll ever meet. You don't know that. Instead, you're just basing it off of what you have in your mind. It's like, oh, that guy's big. He might be scary. Oh, that girl is looking so cute. No way she'll hurt me. It's all mental. It's all in the mind, and that will manifest in itself in how you carry yourself, how you treat everyone. Went on a bit of a rant there. Let's wrap things up. SK, do you have any final tips?
So, in closing, I would say, you pretty much touched on all the points there. I would just go in a little deeper. So, when you maintain eye contact, that right there is a form of communication. What it's essentially saying is, I am here presently with you. I am giving you my time. I am listening to what you're saying. I am engaged with you, right? It is also a very, very intimate way of establishing a connection with someone, whether they're male or female. Now, we live in a day and age where people have very short attention spans. So when you maintain eye contact with them, you might find that they actually start looking away. And it's not because they find you uninteresting. It's mostly to do with the fact that it's so alien to them that there's somebody who can actually sort of give you their attention for more than a couple seconds. And that right there is like a huge power move. Okay. So these little areas that we've just touched on are fundamental to sort of increasing your whole sense of self-worth and raising your self-esteem. And if you can just grasp what we've spoken of in this episode, I truly believe that one, you will lay a solid foundation to build up your self-worth. And over time, you'll start to feel more confident in yourself. You'll start to see that your frame expands. And what I mean by that is you start to take up more space, your energy and your sense of presence will dominate the area that you're in. And people naturally will start to gravitate to you. So that's my point that I'd like to drop in closing.
Mm. The
For
eye contact thing. It
yeah,
also shows that you're comfortable holding eye contact.
yeah.
That when someone holds eye contact with you, that it's like, hey, I see what you're doing. I'm also confident. I'm also able to hold eye contact with you.
Oh yeah. And another, just another final tip before I round it off. If you guys are sort of looking at the whole, if you're looking at sort of building your own social groups or even establishing relationships, say with a woman or just creating like a tight knit friend group, if you can hold eye contact with someone while having a conversation with them, in terms of value, I would say people who tend to hold eye contact more naturally are people who, quote unquote, are of higher value. And why is this? Because those people right there are capable of tuning into you or tuning into a given topic or subject for more than a couple seconds. They don't need to constantly keep flicking and scrolling and looking away in this world of instant gratification and just very short attention spans. So just keep that in mind when you guys are experimenting out socially. Just try and hold eye contact with people and see who looks away and who maintains, because that is also a telltale sign that they have a certain level of confidence that you are, trying to attain. So that's it from me, guys. Spear, do you have anything else to say before we drop this?
No, that's it from us today. Enjoy your days. We're done.
Perfect. Perfect, guys. So once we close this episode of the podcast, it will be rendered and I'll upload it to my channel, which is sk_levels. And after that, I will put it into the lecture details. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. We will ping you guys again with the third episode, which will take place next Saturday. So thanks for tuning in, guys, and hope you have a good one.
Well, Sunday for me. Time zones.
Oh yeah, true that.
Just check the events tab.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Take care.
Take it easy, boys.